Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back to Hilaal Live. I'm your host, Luqman Shadrack, all the way from the Cape Town studios. Thanks for watching us and tuning in on channel 347. Remember, you could also log in to www.hilal.tv and you can live stream. Back in studios, I've had him in a couple of weeks ago, months ago possibly, Haafith Achmat Solomon. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
Jazakallah so much for coming into studio, and I know it's been a couple of months since I've had you in, but I had such an interesting discussion with you that I thought, let's start a series with some of the great work that you do. And as the director of TTR Quran Institute based in Ottery, Cape Town, that's just some of the work you do. Tell our viewers very quickly about some of the other amazing work that you do.
So alhamdulillah, first and foremost, shukran again for having me back. I'm very passionate about getting the message out there and sharing a bit about, the journey of our youth, alhamdulillah. So alhamdulillah, I've been, very quickly just been blessed to be serving youth for just over 12 years now, alhamdulillah. Started at a very young age under the support and mentorship of some of our teachers like Maulana Ali and Maulana Muhammad and the likes. And alhamdulillah, we started out with youth camps. Because that's what we really enjoyed ourselves. So we started out with youth camps and then we moved all the way on to formal life coaching programs, development programs, leadership training. Even now, our latest is actually job creation within the youth development sphere.
Nice.
So the youth that started with us about 10 years ago, 8, 9, 10 years ago, are now even employed in the organization working with other youth.
So that's part of your other business or other leg of the business called Youth Mastery, right? And the programs that you do, is it all Islamic aligned, or do you sort of do a bit of a mix when it comes to some of your projects or programs that you offer?
No, definitely. Look, the project is a holistic growth program.
Okay. And
as a holistic growth program, one cannot holistically grow without a spiritual component.
Good.
So that's how we structure it. If you look, for example, at something like and I mean the viewers can actually just check this up. If you look at something like what they call the wheel of life, where you'd have these different components as what your life actually comprises of, it's undoubtedly clear that there has to be a spiritual component, a physical component, mental component, emotional component. So it's about journeying an individual and a youngster specifically from one phase in his life into the next, from one point in his life into the next, and making that a conscious journey for the youth.
Nice. Okay, my wheel's a bit flat on one side. I need to work on that a little more. But I get what you mean. That all of this is a balanced approach.
Yeah.
And each one is interlinked on how you get on with life and how you progress.
Yeah, definitely.
In many ways as well.
And what that does is it gives you a neutral ground to start from. So, a lot of the times, okay, obviously because we're involved in TTR, which is a Quran Institute specifically, when we're looking at the youth mastery and the youth development and our community development projects, starting from a holistic perspective gives you a neutral base. We have kids even in our orphan program now specifically. There's a lot of non-Muslim kids in that program as well. And we're taking them through the very same journey. And it gives you that neutral place to start from. And it's just, where are you right now? And what's the next phase of your life?
Gotcha. Okay. So let's start. It's going to be a series that we're embarking on for a couple of weeks. And we're encouraging our viewers to WhatsApp us on the WhatsApp line. If you have any questions, this could benefit them and also be part of your programs that you offer on the WhatsApp line 079 085 2511. 079 085 2511. Let me know if you'd like to ask Achmat any questions, and he will try and his level best to answer that as well. So let's start with one of the areas that you like to concentrate in or on, which is the growth is a conscious journey.
Definitely.
Take me through that process. If I attend your program, I attend your class, and I hear this, and I think, okay, I've got so many questions.
Yeah.
But before I have the questions, tell me what this means.
So if the viewers and yourself want to just indulge me for a second, right?
Often it's going to be a test.
No. Okay. Just more of a mental exercise, right?
Okay, gotcha.
And whatever you're busy doing right now, if you're listening to this, you can just kind of mentally do this, right? How many times have you heard something that is going to be beneficial in your life, but you don't necessarily see it materializing? In other words, how many times have you become aware of something and then at the end of the day know that this is beneficial, this is something I would like to be part, this is maybe the next step for me, this, but then you don't see it reach action, right?
Okay.
And this whole thing of consciousness, one of my mentors taught me a couple of years ago that there's 5 different stages of awareness, right? You unaware, then you become aware, then you understand, then you're convinced, and then you act. So if I were to tell you there's a bomb in studio, right? I mean, if I just told you there's a bomb in studio now, you're not flinching at all, you're not, because you don't have the conviction yet to actually act. However, when you become aware of something, you then understand it and you're so convinced about what you now understand, that is when action becomes easy. So looking from a development perspective, you want to see change within the way you live your life. In other words, the things you do. So there's an effective change in your life when you go from doing things in one way to doing things in a different way. So how do you get from not even knowing that there is a different way to do things, or how do I get to do that different, how do I get to do things differently so that I have a different life? And that entire journey starts with consciousness. Because if you're not even conscious about the fact that what I'm doing every single day, that, small seemingly insignificant decisions compounded over time takes you in one direction in life or another. So if you're not even conscious about that, you're not even conscious that today affects tomorrow, the week, the month, the year, and that type of consciousness isn't there, then the urgency to actually adjust or to make any sustainable change is not necessarily going to come into play. And that's why we like to start with consciousness.
Okay, so very interesting, because I think you're making a lot of sense, and that's basically how life tends to work, or our process on how we approach different things tends to work as well. But if you want to break that process down a little more, okay, how do we implement that? Maybe give some real life scenarios in terms of how we can utilize that in our everyday life.
So the journey, I think the initial part, and obviously this interview itself forms part of that whole consciousness concept, because you're watching this interview now, or you're watching this program and you're hearing, okay, there's this thing about consciousness. Okay, where am I going? Where am I not going? So a little bit of a self-assessment is very, very easy that we can even just do right now, is to ask ourselves that, because we want to ask ourselves, in which way am I consciously growing or unconsciously growing, right? So for example, in no day of your life are you remaining exactly where you are. It's the biggest misconception for someone to say, I'm exactly where I was 5 years ago, because it's 5 years later and so many dynamics around you have changed. So one of the practical ways, right, is to start with like basic measuring tools, man. To ask yourself, okay, and earlier we spoke about that different areas of life, right? The easiest way to do this practically is to just pick one area, right? Because success breeds success. If you figure it out in one area of your life, you can then generalize the skill into a different area. And this is actually a trick we use with youth, right? We show them the wheel of life. So you mentioned earlier, do we always bring in the Islamic component and that type of thing, right? We actually let them pick any area. And, sometimes parents are like, what are you doing? You can't let the child pick, where he's going to grow. Like, it doesn't matter what he chooses to grow in. It's the fact that he actually learns the process of growing, which is actually important.
But also he's identified subconsciously an area that he may need assistance with, or maybe thrives.
100%. So that creates a deeper level of engagement, because, I can tell you now, work on your financial life, or work on this area, work on that, but it's not relevant to you right now. But if you pick something out of that circle and you say, this is where I want to work, now we use that as the platform to teach you how. So then the first step is actually measurement. To say, okay, in this area of my life, where am I now and where would I like to be? And once you do that, it's going to immediately make you conscious of how far on track or off track you are. And once you do that, you now start to ask yourself some more questions. Okay, so if I'm this far off track, how do I get back on track? Or how do I take this a little bit further?
What do I need to put in place?
Yeah, 100%. And that's how it, starts to create a platform of what adjustments do I need to make. So all of this talk and discussion, breaking down and analyzing should result in action. So the quicker we get people to knowing what they need to do, the quicker they're able to do it and feel forward movement. And that's why we say success then breeds success. And that's how you build the momentum with somebody, starting from being completely unconscious about it, moving into consciousness all the way to action.
Nice. How do people take to this when they're sitting in your class, they're sitting in your program project, And, is it a light bulb moment? Do you see that come on, or is it a gradual process?
There's definitely always a light bulb moment, right? If they were wearing a hat or a fez or something, and then it'll be like, hold on to it because it's about to blow. And we get this kind of thing where it's like, oh, you're just completely like blowing my mind, or you're just completely, expanding my perspective. And I don't think it's as much. And what has happened is we've noticed, alhamdulillah, the team upskilling themselves continuously. We've managed to get people quicker to that moment.
Alhamdulillah.
So, coming into the program, our introductory sessions shows you so much about yourself that you're able to understand, okay, I see it, and now, okay, what am I going to do about it? And then you see hands start to go up, and it's like, okay, so what if? And then when the engagement starts, that's where it was.
Brilliant. We're chatting to Haafith Achmat Solomon, who is part of TTR, a Quranic institute based in Ottery in Cape Town, but also the founder of Youth Mastery. And we chatted about some of the programs and projects that they undertake on a daily, weekly, monthly basis on how to empower youth and even young adults as well. The WhatsApp line's open if you'd like to ask any questions, 079 085 2511. Chat to us, chat to Achmat, and we will pose your questions just after the break. You are still watching Hilaal Live. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back to Hilaal Live, all the way from the Cape Town studios. My name's Luqman Shadrack, and in studio, Haafith Achmat Solomon, who is part of and founder of Youth Mastery, where they assist and guide youth to various parts of their life that they can encourage them to just be all-around well-balanced youth and young adults as well. Achmat, jazakallah so much for coming into studio and chatting to us about a very, very interesting, I'm finding this interesting because, I can, take me back a couple of years, but I can think when I was a bit younger, but some of these programs that I would have loved to attend and just to gain more knowledge as well. We spoke about conscious journey, or the growth. That growth is a conscious journey, but let's chat about growth itself and how, and you mentioned that it can be a very holistic point of view, or a holistic way of thinking when it comes to growth. Chat to us a little more about that.
What's important with regards to that is that the individual, not just the youngster, any person in general, becomes aware of all of the different components which actually, form part of who they are.
Right.
And that's why we're talking about this consciousness of growth. Like if you were to take an example, earlier you said your one wheel is a little bit flat or whatever. If we were to play with that analogy and say, if you're in a car, when you drive a car and you hear sound, right? Automatically your mind is going to go to, okay, where did that come from? And there's a number of things. Was it the engine? Was it the wheels? Is it here? Is it the back? Is it, what is it? Because there's various components that shows that you are aware that the car has a number of different things. Or if you're stuck, it's like, okay, am I out of fuel? Or, did the engine die out? Is this no longer spark? Is the oxygen a problem? What is the issue? So that level of consciousness holistically is important because you can't necessarily have your front tires all the way pumped up and then the back tires on zero. You'd be better off halving it through, and then at least you can create some movement.
Gotcha.
And in the same scenario, you wouldn't want to be holding the handbrake and the gear and leave the steering wheel completely. So understanding that there's a number of different factors which steer your life in a different direction is of vital importance. And that's why one of the initial things we teach youth, or even some of the young adults, or even adults that come for our life coaching processes or whatever, the initial thing we teach them is that you're composed of a number of different factors which all require attention.
Gotcha.
And your attention is limited. So how are you accurately dividing that in a way that it's sustainable for you to grow holistically? Because quite often we completely business focused, or quite often, even now with examinations, a big message we get out there is that, take time to breathe, exercise, make sure those routines stay in place.
Yeah.
A lot of time youth drop that, then they throw themselves into the books entirely, but all half as productive as they were when they had a running routine and an exercise and an eating plan and this, that, and the other, and they throw everything out of the window because we're so completely focused on one aspect that the holistic individual is actually suffering without even knowing about it. And then, yes, you may succeed in that way, but how healthy are you going to come out on the other end of it all?
Right.
You know,
Right.
so that's why that holistic component is extremely important.
Nice. We're chatting to Achmat Solomon on Hilaal Live. And if you'd like to be part of the show on the WhatsApp line, we only take in WhatsApps. Unfortunately, no telephone calls, either on our landline or the WhatsApp line. It's only WhatsApps. 079 085 2511. 079 085 2511. The number's on the screen. Take a picture, save it, and WhatsApp us your questions so that Achmat can answer that too and try his level best to answer that as well. Achmat, you are a structural alignment coach, right? That's how you identify yourself, right? And this concept of alignment is something that your methodology is based on. So tell me more about that in relation to today's topic that we're discussing in terms of growth and holistic approach.
Yeah, alignment is key.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, for example, one where if you're having you know, a specific intention, then the summary of this structural alignment, or the summary of alignment in general, is that if you have a specific intention, then your actions need to be aligned with that intention or with that objective. Otherwise, it's gonna be mismatched, and then you're gonna think to yourself, I wanted to study, but I didn't, and I don't know why. Or I wanted to this, but I didn't. Or the opposite is that we don't even know what to align our actions to.
Okay.
So now what happens is they tell youth, you need to behave in a certain way, you need to be like this, you need to be like that, even as adults. So what do I do for today? What am I going to do for this week? What am I going to do for this month? And if you have a whole lot of question marks, I don't know what I'm going to do this week. I'm going to see what the day holds, or I'm going to see what tomorrow holds, or whatever. It's telltale signs that you don't know what to align your actions to. However, when a vision or a purpose is defined, you can then clearly say, okay, cool. I know that this is how I need to behave over the next couple of weeks or months or whatever. Because, and a simple example would be, if I have an intention to run a marathon. So now I'm like, okay, I'm going to run this marathon, right? You can't just go about your normal routine and your normal, just whacking Gatsby's and whatever else you're having and whatever it may be. Yeah. You need to start making adjustments. Now, the way you adjust is in line with the objective that you're trying to achieve. And that's why this, structural alignment method is at the core of everything that we do. Because whether we're having small startup youth organizations that are looking for assistance, we ask them, so what's the outcome? Okay. And based on that outcome, how are you guys operating? Okay. So based on that, is that taking you towards your goal or actually away from it? And now understanding how to then structurally align is actually key to seeing those particular results. And, that's a summary of basically what this structural alignment is about. Okay.
Chat to us on the WhatsApp line if you would like to ask any questions. 079 085 2511. Send us a question, a concern, comment. Maybe you have something to add to our conversation as well. We'd love to hear from you. Only on the WhatsApp line, no telephone calls, unfortunately. 079 085 2511. How does this transcend all of this knowledge, projects, workshops that you do with youth, young adults? How does this transcend, and how do they take this home with them for them to utilize, number one, on their own? And how can the family then get involved and learn from this and grow with this individual?
A couple of years ago, a mentor of mine asked me, so where is your focus, right? And then I said, my focus is on youth. And then he said, so what do you do? So I was like, look, I work with youth. And he said, oh, you're always ever only going to work with youth, right? And, obviously my young imagination was like, yes, I can see myself doing this for the rest of my life. However, of late, in the last couple of years, what we've realized is that we're actually working in, a vacuum. Or we are actually even part of an holistic picture, because if you look at youth in general, they exist in a home space. They exist in either a school or workspace, and then they exist in a social space. So now what happens is, here's the development space. So now what we're trying to do all the time is come out of your home space, come to the development space. Come out of work, come over here. Come out of your social spaces, come over here, right? And sometimes youth don't make that journey. You're not going to find them in the sessions. You're not going to find them attending the programs. And then what we found was, if we can take what's happening here into the home, or we can take what's happening here into the school, or we can take what's happening here into the social environment, then we can actually reach them where they are at. And that formed the basis for 3 different programs. The one is the social intervention program, which happens in the holidays around the social dynamic. The other one is when we're working with schools, assisting the teachers on how to engage youth, how to actively, connect with them, understand them, this, that, and the other. And then thirdly, the parents, how do we work together as partners to say, okay, he's with you, he wakes up in the morning there, you deal with him first, you deal with him last, and whether you bring him into the program or not, how do you as a parent, upskill yourself? So how this translates in all of that areas is actually key to the development of these youngsters themselves, because they might be in our program for an hour or two and might be motivated at the time, might be clear at the time, but come home to again a parent or a household that's misaligned to the growth of that youngster. And there we can just see the importance of this alignment again. So as we are aligning the youngster to his particular objectives and a better version of himself, the home now needs to be able to be aligned as to what's the journey of my son right now. Where is he at? And a big reality that we often have to do with parents specifically and educators as well is that you need to have an appreciation for where the child is at, not where you want the child to be. Because where you want the child to be versus where the child is at is 2 completely different destinations.
True.
And if you're working with him as if he's just supposed to be where you're expecting him to be, then your advice is going to be misaligned. Your actions you're going to be doing is misaligned. But if you're starting and saying, okay, where you at? I often make this example that if you're going to put a destination in your GPS, but you don't put your location on, they can't give you a map.
True.
So understanding where they are and teaching parents and educators how to understand where youth are in the different phases of their lives has actually become key to the project.
Great. What's our take home today from everything that you've discussed? What's our take home to implement in our everyday life?
I think a take home for myself first and then for all of us is there's a saying that a mentor of mine left me with a couple of years back: what gets measured improves. So I think to ask ourselves the question, what is my life actually about and how can I measure those things? So do I want to live my life is about business, spirituality, relationship, and how can I measure this? If I'm have a relationship with my children, how can I measure this? So is it something that's improving? Is it something that's, so I think
so tangible.
Yeah, so definitely create a measurement for the different areas of our lives, and that's going to just give us the awareness of where we are and the type of work that we need to put in.
So a benchmark and a reality goal that you'd like to work
100%,
towards.
and it's okay to not know what to do about it, but to just actually be aware that something needs to be done.
Got you. Founder of Youth Mastery, Achmat Solomon, Jazakallah so much. We look forward to next week's edition. Thanks very much. Have a great evening.
Likewise, Jazakallah khair for having me.
So there we go, Achmat Solomon on Hilaal Live. He's back next Tuesday. You could correspond on the WhatsApp line next week and pose some of the questions. From the Cape Town team, Sohail Barnes and myself, Luqman Shadrack, we now hand over to the Johannesburg team. I think we break for, we hand over to the Johannesburg team and they take you through until about 7:30, inshallah. Have a great evening. Assalamu alaikum.